I'd like to call to order the City of Wilmington's Board of Adjustments meeting for Thursday, March 21st, 2024. It is 1 o'clock. First item we'll do is swear in anyone that would be speaking today.
All right, staff, applicants, members of the public who wish to speak, if you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right. The next thing I'll read in the Board of Adjustments introduction. Hearings before the Board of Adjustments are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions of the board are based on the records of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a current vote of 4/5 of the members of the board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a simple majority. Evidence submitted to the board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals of the board's decision are to Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of filing of the board's order in the Planning Division. A hearing before the board is conducted in accordance with rules and procedures. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witness. The chairperson recognizes those that want to testify or their attorneys for presentation of evidence during the hearing. To ensure all testimony is properly recorded, please come forward to address the board, state your name and address, and please speak clearly. The next item would be the approval of minutes from the February 15th, 2024 meeting. If there's no changes, I'd entertain a motion for approval. And is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those pass. Before we move forward, is there one item that's going to be continued on today's?
Item number 3 for 215 Summer Rest Road has requested a continuance.
All right. We'll go ahead and address that and see for item number 3 involving 215 Summer Rest Road, asking for continuance to the
April 18th
meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
I'd like to propose a motion that we continue 215 Summer Rest Road to the April 18th, 2024 Board of Adjustment meeting.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's continued. We'll start with new business. It's involving 110 South 9th Street. It's a variance to the section 18-28 to allow a reduction in the required side yard setback for the existing structures within the R3 residential district. And you're going to present for today?
Thank you, Chairman Hovas. I'm Catherine Thurston, City Zoning Administrator, and yes, I'll be presenting this item. This is a request for a variance at 110 South 9th Street. This property is zoned R3, medium-high density mixed residential district. The subject property currently contains a duplex that was built around 1920, and it's currently listed as a contributing structure in the Wilmington National Register of Historic Places. City Code Section 1828 requires 4,000 square feet of lot area for a duplex and still requires a minimum of 33 feet of lot frontage for any newly created lots, whether a duplex or a single dwelling. The subject property is approximately 66 feet wide, which would allow it to be divided into 2 buildable lots, each 33 feet wide by 95 feet deep, just based on the frontage requirements alone. The resultant lots would contain approximately 3,135 square feet, which is not enough to accommodate a duplex use, but it is enough to accommodate an internal accessory dwelling unit. LDC Section 1828 requires a minimum setback of 3.3 feet, which is 10% of the lot width, or 5 feet if more than a 50-foot wide lot. The applicant has proposed a 1.7-foot side yard interior setback for the southern portion of the parcel due to the encroachment of an existing bay window. This is showing that the surrounding zoning is R3, and that is a blurry survey of the subject property, but it does show the bay window extension. This is from the National Register of Historic Places, showing that this is a contributing structure on the National Register, which means that in lieu of demolition of this house, we would work with any applicants who wish to demolish the house to preserve it in some way, even if it meant moving it to a different site. Here's a street view from Google Maps of the subject property. It's difficult to see that bay window off on the left-hand side. But the applicant has proposed to subdivide this lot to build a new primary structure to the left of the existing house and to retain the historic duplex. On January 30th, 2024, they submitted a variance of 1.7 feet to the interior side yard setback to retain that bay window. And the proposed subdivision wouldn't increase the maximum allowable density on the parcels because the historic structure could potentially be altered to accommodate an internal accessory dwelling unit and still allow the subdivision. However, the house would likely not retain its historic integrity under those circumstances. The proposed division into 33-foot wide lots is consistent with the surrounding development pattern in the area. And this matter was set for hearing before you today, March 21st, 2024. I would like to put all of the attachments and the case summary into the record, please, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you.
The
Anyone have?
applicant is also present. I don't know that they have a presentation, but they're available for questions.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have questions for Catherine at this time?
Catherine, would they require a certificate of appropriateness for the new structure?
They would not. They're not in a locally designated historic district. They're zoned R3, so it would just be a building permit.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Wesley Buffalo is the owner and the agent. Do you have anything would you like to present or?
No, sir. Other than the fact that, just to say.
We just need to get it recorded, I'm sorry.
Sure. My name is Wesley Buffalo, owner of the property. And except for the bay window, as Catherine said, I think, it would otherwise meet those requirements. And I'm certainly willing, as was shown on that map, to have a shared drive for both with parking in the back, which I think would, having actually lived on 9th Street for a while myself, I think would, the tenants would much appreciate that. Anyway, appreciate your consideration. Let me know if you have any other questions.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Buffalo? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to the evidentiary hearing and open up the evidentiary hearing for non-parties that have any information or would like to present anything to the public that's relevant to this matter. Is there anyone? All right. Being that we don't see any, we'll go ahead. Any questions while we're in the hearing part from anyone here? Anything, Catherine, on your side during this part?
Nothing further from staff.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing, and we'll ask if anything else. You're good, Catherine, moving forward? All right,
Yes, sir.
all right, we'll open it up to discussion.
I don't see any issues with the variance request. It's just really the bay window that's affecting the setback, and that's in a pre-existing structure that's already there. So I don't have any issues, and I'd be willing to make a motion to approve it based off the 4 findings of fact.
All right, so that would be, there is a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I would second.
All right, motion first and second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries unanimously. All right, we'll move on to item number 2. Item number 2 involves 4456 Fairview Drive, a variance to the standards in the mixed-use Legacy District, MXL, as set forth in the Old City Code, Section 18-185, to allow a building to be placed outside the required 10-foot build-to-line and to allow parking between the buildings and the street. And Catherine, you're going to present for this one, too.
Thank you, Chairman Huffis. Yes, this item, 4456 Fairview Drive, it's a property that's zoned MX Legacy District because this is not a zoning district that was carried forward in the new code that was adopted in December of 2021, which is when this project was originally started. It was prior to that new code coming into effect. This property is part of Tract 1 within the Ansley Park subdivision, which is recorded at the New Hanover County Registry in Map Book 49, page 164. The site currently contains a stormwater runoff pond for the entire subdivision. I don't have a pointer, but you can see that to the north part of the hatched area. The tract is subject to an existing 20-foot public drainage easement that runs from north to south along Fairview Drive. The Legacy Land Development Code, Section 18185, requires that structures in the MX Legacy District or in the MX District be located within 10 feet of the right-of-way. So it isn't a setback, it's that the buildings have to be pulled up to the right-of-way. That section also requires that parking be located to the side or rear of the structure. On March 21st, 2024, the applicant submitted a request for 2 variances to facilitate the development of the site for a new medical office building. The applicant cites the presence of the drainage easement as the need for the variances to the 10-foot build-to line. It's unclear as of the date of publication and as of today, unless the applicant has additional information, what the extent of the variance that's requested is. The applicant has also requested a variance to allow parking between the building and the street, stating that parking in front of the structure will improve the pedestrian orientation and promote vehicular circulation for patient pickup and drop-off. And I'll just go over some of the attachments. This shows the surrounding MX project, MX Legacy, multi-dwelling across the street, across Carolina Beach Road. In red here, you can see the portion of the site that is part of this proposal. That's Fairview Drive off to the right-hand side of your screen, and Ansley running along the top part of the parcel. This is a sketch of the proposed project. And this is a better graphic showing the existing 20-foot public utility easement running along the east side of the property along Fairview Drive up to Ansley, and that's shown in blue there. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of staff, and I'd like to enter the case summary and all attachments into the record.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Catherine? All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, the owner and the agent is here to speak on behalf.
Thank you, Chairman Hovis and board members. My name is Bruce Bowman. I am with Bowman Murray Hemingway Architects, and I am agent for Aris Development 2. And I am also engaged with that is the proposed seller or the current landowner, and contracted with the proposed buyer of the land. This is our last item of due diligence before they can close on the land. And Mr. Chairman, as you know, very familiar with the Land Development Code, the transition from old to new. And I'm glad that Catherine has already introduced as evidence. This is sort of an update of the former attachment B, which was sketched a month or more ago. Casey has some hard copies for your paper record if you like. But looking at that diagram, you can see the blue outlined area contains multiple utility easements, and it extends inward, overlapping the green dotted line. So that really calls for the building to be set back at least that to a minimum. And the difficulty here is, we've got a 50-foot named highway setback along Carolina Beach Road. We're losing a lot of property, and the project becomes basically, it becomes a deal breaker if we can't maximize the building and site area of the site. So giving that consideration and considering the building is for an ophthalmology office, it does not have a retail element like an eyeglass place. It's really just for retina health. People that may have had cataracts and retina trouble, and mostly senior population, would go in for multiple staging through the building at stations, including eye dilation and other things, and having a driver with them, putting a little bit of pressure on the parking and on a desired ease of having a drop-off for elderly to get into the building quickly. So we chose to, as is on your screen right now, wrap the building to the Fairview side, which would be visible from the approach coming from the south headed north. And I believe this site placement also gives a greater visibility at a busy and high-speed intersection where you can have an opportunity to sort of forecast where you will need to turn. So there are many things about this site orientation and positioning that I think really makes better architecture and fulfills my client's goals. So the Catherine has already stated the two main things about what has triggered this in the legacy, or the MX Legacy District, and we all know that these legacy districts are not there for a reason unless you wanted to continue them, and this is a remaining parcel that really has to be completed under MX in order for the whole thing to meet the metrics. These days, we would maybe use a CDMU or a mixed use rather than a mixed district of, quilting zoning, and it really works much better. And furthermore, the MX language, though it is completely detailed in micromanaging ways, that the language doesn't acknowledge, for example, give me a moment to look for an attachment reference. Brought too many papers with me, sorry. Okay, here we go. There, in the new LDC, the LDC being based on the comprehensive plan, I'd like to introduce to the record some reference from the latest adopted LDC, figure 18-407.2, where intersecting streets you're given how to determine a primary versus a secondary, such that the relationships relate to the primary frontage, and there are other rules that run with the secondary frontage. Well, in this case, in the MX Legacy, there is no way to determine that. So you have two fronts. Depending on which side you look at the building, parking could be to the side in any orientation, really. So we are sort of adopting the principle, if you will, that's in the current land development code for, how you determine front, side, and so forth. I'd like to also introduce to the record from the current land development code, figure 18-408.2, which calls for street-specific frontage requirements. So the old MX district, which could be placed anywhere within the city limits, called for certain relationships to the street without giving any context to the part of the town where they are. And this maps the Carolina Beach Road transition of three different frontage criteria. You've got one that is a sort of a more urban frontage, one that's sort of in between, and one is suburban. And we happen to fall at the end of the suburban part of that road. So currently, this would not be required. In fact, there are pictures related with the figure that show parking in front of the building as a suggested design and organizational plan. And lastly, on that point, figure 18-407.13, which shows an aerial view of a suburban frontage example that would be appropriate for that positioning on Carolina Beach Road. So I feel like it's a snag from some old language as we try to claw out a few remaining MX parcel developments, and I know some of the staff would like to see this completely concluded because it's really difficult to work with in controlling all the metrics. We have enjoyed being part of this total mixed-use development because, as I mentioned, there's a need for a lot of parking, more than the ordinance would by right allow for, but we have some unutilized existing spaces that have not been built out on the main development that can shift over here. And as you look at your diagram, you see those extra spaces shown speckled would be a pervious pavement for the over the sort of unit permitted parking. So it's really the perfect site for this client, and I'd really like to see that it works out in their favor. I'd like to maybe introduce Jessica Schroeder to see if she would like to say any other items in support. She is the manager or the director of the project for the buyer.
Hi, I'm Jessica, Jessica Schroeder with Cape Fear Retina. Bruce eloquently stated the need.
I'm sorry, and just for the record, we just need your address. And Bruce, I'll have to have you say yours before you leave.
My home address.
You can be your professional address, wherever.
Oh,
is-
okay.
either one's fine.
1104 Medical Center Drive in Wilmington. We, as Bruce said, are a retina practice. We're specialists, and if any of you have had to see a specialist in Wilmington in the last couple of years, you realize the wait for months to get an appointment, the struggles to get into the office and parking. So our really huge goal with this is to be able to bring more doctors to town. We are one of only 2 retina groups in Wilmington, seeing a growing population of aging retirees that are moving here. And we treat the #1 cause of blindness in the country. So, you know, the big goal here is to bring more doctors in to see the patients and the growing patient population. And with the allowance of the building to be moved on the lot, it allows us to maximize our parking opportunity. So, you know, again, the patient drop-off is a big deal for us. We have a lot of elderly patients and those who are vision impaired, so having the drop-off at the door is also a big point for us. But we really appreciate you hearing us today, and thank you, Bruce.
All right, thank you.
And Chairman Hovers, my business address is 514 Market Street at BMH Architects. In conclusion, I feel like I have demonstrated for the applicant the hardship of the encroaching easements, controlling the building placement, reduces the building footprint and compromises entrance drop-off placement, that the hardship is site-specific and serves multiple side-by-side utilities serving the community, which is essential infrastructure. The hardship does not result from the applicant or the property owner. The requested variance is consistent with the LDC and does not pose a hazard to public safety. And I would like for the board to consider our position on the 4 findings of fact that you are here are charged with, that this is a unique condition to the site, that it serves the necessary community infrastructure, and that little interpretations of the MX Legacy District would deprive the applicant rights enjoyed by other similar properties in MXL or under current LDC, and that the hardship does not result from the actions of the applicant, and granting this variance will not confer the applicant with any special privilege of similarly zoned parcels. And that's all I have, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, the questions from Mr.
The
Bell?
only question I have, it says that the extent of the variance has not been stated. How much of a variance do you need? I mean, can we approve? Don't we need a specific
Well,
variance?
I would say that in this case, the variance would be to, okay, let me pull up something that I can cite for you.
You're going to be further away than 10 feet, but I don't know if we need to know how much further away than 10 feet for our variance approval.
Well, it's a slope and a curved shape, so I think it may be better to state this. Under the MXL paragraph 11D, where it says in the first sentence, parking lots shall be located behind or to the side of buildings. And I would say that we would have a variance in this specific instance to say that it is as, that the Fairview frontage is not a side because it is its own front, or the parking lots shall be located behind the building without the reference to the side of the building would suffice.
Well, I was more addressing the placement of the building itself. It says the building must be within 10 feet of the right-of-way, and it's going to be much further away, which I think is a good thing, but do we need to have a specific?
Well, I would say, each of these double-loaded parking aisles would be measure 60 feet across, and we're about 15 feet from the property line proper, and we're about another 10 feet from the building line, so 120, 135, 140, probably 150 feet would do the trick. You could round up if you want to just sort of make sure you capture it in this instance.
If the board were to choose to grant this variance, they could tie it to the site plan that's in front of you, which is a scaled site plan, and it would, we would be able to figure out that exact number.
Okay, thank you.
I was just wanted to, for clarification, the variances that you
Yeah,
were asking
good.
for.
Good to
just
have
so-
it on the record.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's good. And then, all right, other questions for Mr. Bowman? Do you have anyone else to present any information?
No, that's all. John, I don't think do you care to say a few words? This is John Hinnett. He is the agent for buyer.
Mr. Bowman, I'll need to swear him in. If you'll just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Hinnett. My professional address is 4922 Randall Parkway, Suite C. I think it's important to note that not all office is equal, and in the office market, we're seeing a lot of remote work. This is a very hands-on operation. Each provider or doctor has 4 to 5 technical staff, and then they share 2 administrative staff. And with the goal to add other providers, the parking is a real issue for our client. And currently, I believe they rent a separate lot at their current location just to park their employees. So this is there's no remote work opportunity for these employees. So just urge your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Bowman, at all?
That takes care of me. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Bowman? Does the city have any questions for the applicant or the agent?
No questions from the city.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Appreciate what you do.
All right, we're going to go forward and move into the evidentiary hearing. Open up to non-parties that would like to present public comments. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak at this time? All right, anybody have anything to state within this hearing? Anything from the city within the hearing side? Okay, go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. And is there anything else from the applicant at all? Anything from the city?
Not at this time.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions
All
you may
right,
have.
thanks. All right, we'll go into discussion and see if anyone has any questions related to this.
I'm really okay with the variances requested. I drove by the property, and I think it maximizes use of the property, and I think it's a necessary thing, and it certainly fits in with the character of where it is on Carolina Beach Road and Fairview Drive. So I would make a motion, if there's no further discussion, that we approve the 2 variances as requested, based on the 4 findings of fact, subject to the site plan, the scale site plan that was provided to us.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been the motion and seconded. Anybody have any questions or comments at this time? All right, at this time, all those in favor say aye. 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 Anyone opposed? That passes. Thank you. That is our last item on the agenda. Do we have any other items from the city?
Nothing from the city.
Anybody else have anything? All right, that being the case, we're adjourned.
Thanks, Jeff.